distress tolerance.
Yeah.
So it's like how much distress I can take before
I break.
I break.
And you have to know yourself, like, can I put myself in that situation? Or am I going to break?
Atomic Souls Podcast.
If your mom won't put the drink down for you, you should not do Thanksgiving with them. Fuck that mom.
No, I saw someone that posted recently and said something similar. It was like, if your family is like ignoring like the bad, unhealthy cycles, then it's furthering the abuse and neglect and like unhealthy traumas. So like at some point you have to set a boundary with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what you can change, right? Like you can accept and go to it and be exposed to people that are being disrespectful like that, or you can change and like, hey, I'm going to find a chosen family, or I'm going to do it alone, or, you know.
Well, I think that's the level of agency that's difficult for people and probably is discussed in depth in therapy is like,
it's hard.
Yeah.
It's easy to
having
say.
to change something that is going to hurt. It's like, I don't want to go home for Thanksgiving because mom and dad are going to be drinking. But you're also saying like, I'm not participating in Thanksgiving with my family.
Yeah.
That's hard, but it might be the right choice if that's going to cause you to relapse.
Yeah. Yeah. And dialectical behavior therapy is very much for those intense situations. It was created for borderline personality disorder, which is called the I love you, I hate you disorder. And it's very extreme.
Gotcha.
There's very lack of middle ground. And so, but it's because most people that have that have grown up in traumatic situations that is either they're loved or they're hated. There's like no in between. And so they accept that as like their worldview and how they operate in the world. So instead of a healthy, like, hey mom, you're going to drink for Thanksgiving, I'm not going to be there, it would be like, fuck you for drinking. Fuck all of y'all. I'll never see you again. It would be a very extreme. Or like, oh my God, they love me so much, they're not going to drink. Like it would be like very extreme. But they'll put up with something else. Okay.
So in that regard, I'm starting to understand the spectrum a little more. The spectrum has nothing to do with the action. It has to do with emotional regulation associated with the action.
Yeah. Yeah, it's deeply rooted in regulating emotions. So that's one of the other spectrums is mindfulness and emotion regulation. And it's like kind of based on acceptance and change. Okay.
It's difficult for me to visualize spectrum with a
I have a visual. I can show you a visual.
Acceptance and change.
Let me show you a visual. I'll pull it up.
Just showing a chart with acceptance on one side, change on the other side ain't.
No, it's different.
Okay. But visualizing like emotional regulation, one end is hate, one end is love, and you're trying your best to stay in the middle. That is a spectrum that I can comprehend. I can visualize that. Yeah. 'Cause I do think that's something that everybody has to work. It's like a muscle. Like you got to train that muscle.
So change and acceptance. There's 4 quadrants.
You realize you're not showing it to me right now, right?
I'm just going to describe it to you first.
Okay.
So change and acceptance, and then there's 4 quadrants within that, and it's all based on self-management. And so in the acceptance side, there's mindfulness and distress tolerance. And the change side, there's emotion regulation and interpersonal effectiveness. So those are things, emotion regulation and interpersonal effectiveness are more closely related. It's like, what can I change? And then mindfulness and distress tolerance are more on like, what can I accept?
Gotcha. So the spectrum is the regulation of emotions and self.
Yeah, self-management.
Yeah, that's what's throwing me off is the verbiage of acceptance and change.
Yeah. Yeah, so you either can, focus on acceptance of this and you sit through it in distress tolerance through the situation.
And stress tolerance, you said?
Distress tolerance. So if you choose to go to Thanksgiving and mom is drinking, there are skills called distress tolerance skills.
Distress tolerance.
Yeah.
So it's like how much distress I can take before
I break.
I break.
And you have to know yourself, like, can I put myself in that situation or am I going to break?
Okay.
And so distress tolerance is like very intense coping skills, like sitting in situations that you cannot change because you might live with mom and she's drinking and you can't leave that situation.
Well, I think distress tolerance that's a skill set even outside of recovery. Like success in life is basically just how much, I never heard it called distress tolerance. I just called it stress tolerance. But how much stress can you take before you break?
Yeah.
We talk about it on the boats a lot. Like if you want to be a wheelman, 90% of the time, easiest job in the world, 10% of the time, they don't pay you enough. It's because that stress tolerance, like you need to be the guy that has ice in his veins and you're not going to break under pressure to be a good wheelman. So I think in that regard, if you're dealing with all those things, it could be setting you up to be an extremely successful individual later in life.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're being prepped to have phenomenal distress tolerance.
Yeah. Yeah. DBT is like one of the holy grails of like coping skills.
Yeah.
Like if you can apply the skills that it presents, I've seen people, like do amazing things. Because kind of circling back to our talk about like trauma and EMDR, like people who've been through a lot of trauma can utilize those coping skills that they learned in that for healthy things. And so DBT is basically like empowering that person to utilize and how to utilize them for healthier ways in managing. And but like also the balance of change, like if your mom is abusive, you need to like find a different housing situation.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's like the balance of like how much should you distress tolerance and how much should you get out the situation.
I feel like a lot of the time it's the verbiage that gets me. Like calling things coping skills, like it just automatically negative connotation. Like you're having to cope because life sucks. So it's like a way to dig yourself out of the hole rather than excel past baseline. So I feel like to some degree that type of verbiage holds us back a little bit because I'm just coping with this. It's like, no, I'm mastering this shit.
Yeah, well, that's why I like DBT, because it's about acceptance and change. Like acceptance is more of like, oh, poor pitiful me. Like if on like the very far end, it's just like a wet doormat. But the change part is really giving people agency. And most people coming in looking for DBT have been in that like, oh, I'm just like reacting to life and like I'm the victim to everything. And then once you start to show them like, no, actually you're not, like you can change things.
Right.
That agency starts to build and the confidence. And so, most clients that we're seeing are stuck in like survival mode and are the victim to people. And so we're helping educate them on like, hey, this is not normal.
So how do you transition away from that into like, all right, we're back to baseline. Now how do we move forward? Because that's where I feel like a lot of people get stuck, especially in the recovery world. We're like, oh, I'm 20 years sober. Phenomenal. What else are you doing with your life, though? Because just sobriety is not enough. And the skills that we're talking about right now that we call coping skills, not to say like I feel like it's a negative connotation there. It's a phenomenal skill, though, because the stress tolerance, you know who else needs that? A fucking doctor when they're doing surgery. A NASCAR driver, the quarterback when he's about to throw, game-winning point. Those are things, that's the exact same skill set. Like you're training yourself to be a badass, but then you get to baseline and you don't utilize any of that in a positive way. You just stay at baseline. Yeah. And so I think to some degree it could be some of that verbiage of like, oh, it's just a coping skill. That's not a fucking coping skill. It's a success skill that you use to cope.
That's a good way to put it.